Welcome, everybody, to the That Kinda Nerd podcast. I am CJ Mellon, joined, of course, by Josh Burns and Brian Thornton. Welcome to our show where we break down weekly what is going on in the nerd world. If you're new to the podcast, please go check out the amazing articles and other content on thatkindanerd.com. You can also find us on Twitter at thatkindanerd. Other social media sites and stuff will come later throughout the show. Just quick disclaimer. For some of you who are listening live, not really live, but when this drops, when this publishes, we are not, I repeat, not going to be talking about Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice today.
No matter how badly I want to.
No, badly, it's not happening. We are going to be speaking about Netflix's Daredevil Season 2 this episode, so if you haven't seen that, stop now. Go watch it, and then go flog yourself, because are you seriously? It's been like a week. Like, get that
shame.
Shit done.
I'm on my second viewing at this point.
Yeah, me too.
Get that done. So let's go ahead and just start right on the show with holy shit, how awesome was this season?
At least all of the awesome.
It was at least all of the awesomes. It was all of the awesomes, and then it was more awesomes on top of that.
So the thing that really stood out to everybody in season 1 was this hallway scene, which appeared to look like a single shot hallway fight, and it was probably one of the best filmed pieces of fight choreography in cinematic history, and there's no way they're going to be able to top this at all.
Wait, that hallway fight, that was like halfway through the season.
Episode 2. End of episode 2.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, well,
Because he was still in the vigilante,
all
mode.
right, the hallway fight was cool. I mean, there was a lot more brutal fight scenes, though, I thought, in that.
Yeah, but just the fact that it looked like one shot.
It was very stylized.
It was really cool. And there's
Okay.
there's no way they're going to do that. Like, you can't replicate that. Like, way to go. Nice job. Season 2, I can't wait to see what you do. And then they did that stairway fight where he's fighting all those freaking bikers.
With a chain wrapped around him.
Yeah, with
he's
a
using the chain to whip people. It's awesome.
He's breaking lights and shit. It's just like this barbaric, fuck you kind of mode. Oh my God. That was my favorite fight sequence of this entire season. And I was
ever.
shocked.
Really?
I love that thing. You didn't like that?
Well, of course I liked it. I don't know that it was I don't think it was my favorite fight scene of this season, but
What was your favorite fight scene of this season then?
I mean, either the first fight with the Punisher or the fight where he was completely had to track the hand by their breath and at the end, or the Wilson Fisk versus the Punisher
I didn't
fight
breathe
scene.
at all during that stairwell scene. I couldn't
Why?
breathe.
He was just running downstairs and hitting guys once or twice, and they were going down.
I didn't breathe for 13 hours. How good it freaking was.
See, and the cool part, and see, here's the cool thing about this, and this is the nerdy part of me, was that was shot
so well. It was so great. Theater stuff. The lighting was amber. It was amazing.
They had the yellow lights positioned in such a way.
Just saying, it was 11 fighting stunt doubles that were being the shit kicked out of them for 5 days. It was just 11 people in that hallway, continuously cycling through, being different characters. Those poor 11 bastards got their ass kicked for 5 days. Anyway, I loved it. But the reason I'll say that over the first fight with the Punisher is because the first fight with the Punisher just doesn't. It's not complete. They get broken up so many different times. The momentum is stopped just because
he got shot in the head.
Right. A lot of shit goes down. Right.
A lot. Such as someone gets shot in the head.
Yes.
And it has ramifications for 6 episodes afterwards.
Right.
I'm just saying it was a great. Listen, I'm not saying it's not a bad fight scene. I said I think the stairwell is better than the first fight with Daredevil.
I think my favorite fight scene, if I have to pick one, my favorite fight scene is Wilson Fisk versus the Punisher. That was a very clear display of power. You're there's no confusing who's in charge. There's no confusing who has the upper hand. And if you didn't recall Fisk's brutality and his power from the first season, this certainly, against a foe who was, tougher than anyone he had ever, kicked the shit out of. Frank Castle's resilient, and he just really didn't have the ability to go on.
Yeah, my wife was like, isn't Wasn't Fisk supposed to be very strong? And then she just starts beating the shit out of him. Like, there you go. Yes, he is. He's very strong.
Right.
I loved it. No, I thought that was good.
All right, so we need to take a step back.
I was just about to say, let's go back.
You're so far ahead, and the mere fact that Fisk is in this season was a freaking mind blow because no one knew it was coming. And it's very well done, but we have to rewind even further back because that's like 10 episodes in to just the introduction of the Punisher. Can we talk about John Bernthal and his performance, which was amazing? And
Amazeballs.
It was so good.
Amazeballs. And everyone was just expecting, not everyone, not me, but a lot of people were just expecting, it's just Shane, and he's wearing a Punisher skull. And Shane from Walking Dead. We know you don't know.
I don't know.
And Shane. I think, Josh, that you're kind of lucky because you get to see him without any kind of other filter or any other roles kind of popping in your head.
Wait, he's been in a bunch of stuff. What are you talking about?
He has been in a bunch of stuff.
Right. Most people, though, most people know him from The Walking Dead and that character and how that character kind of went a little psycho. And some people are just going, oh, that's just like, and I'm just like, shut up. This is a totally new guy. Right.
It's not. And he did the performance so well in such a way that, like, yes, he is psychotic and kind of obstinate, but you feel so bad for him. You kind of want this guy to kill every mobster in the world ever.
This is the Punisher from Warzone and War Journal from the 90s, from when I was growing up. This is how I remember the Punisher, and this is exactly how he should have been done since the very beginning.
Their conversation on the rooftop is fucking incredible.
Oh, it's so great.
They're talking. He was just like they're calling each other out on their bullshit, and they're having this ideological fight, and it's fucking brilliant.
But they did a great job of writing the character in that. Every iteration of the Punisher that we've seen, there's always been this like bit of whininess, and I understand that tremendous loss, but instead of him coming off as terribly like just despair and absolute withdrawal from society like John Bernthal did, they always come off as whiny, and this was not that at all.
No, and they did something, and to be honest with you, I don't remember this ever being done in the comic book. They did something with the character in general that he's forgetting his life before the accident, and they equated to the bullet that he took in the head. That he those scenes between him and Karen where they're talking about his family, he's struggling to remember how his kids are and how his wife would act around him, and just remembering things before that day. He's slowly losing it, and all he can remember is the day his family got shot, the day he relives that moment every day when he wakes up. It was such an amazing development for the character, something new that I've never seen before, and it just makes you feel even worse for the character, that you're just like, yeah, totally, no, kill that guy, I don't care, no, he was jaywalking, I don't care, kill him, he deserves it probably.
No, to me it wasn't so much that, it was the, oh my god, I understand why this guy is doing this. If you keep reliving literally something unimaginable, even in my brain, as I couldn't even describe as the worst day of my life, it's something so terrible, it's impossible to fathom. I can understand him wanting to kill every mobster he comes in contact with.
They did it. They couldn't have done it any better. They couldn't have cast it any better. And I thought it not only made the season, it was perfect, but they took all the brutality of Daredevil season 1, and somehow, when you add the Punisher in, it's exponentially sort of ratcheted up. It was,
as it should be, because of the Punisher the way he is.
I'm with you, but again, think about all the Punisher that we've had up to this point, and between
obviously Dolph Lundgren
and Thomas Jane and Ray Winstone, none of
Ray
them.
Stevenson.
No, what, Stevenson?
Yeah, Stevenson.
Okay. All right, whatever. None of them. I do that every episode. How do I get a name wrong every episode?
I don't know.
They didn't have a single one of them that was able to do all parts of it the right way.
Yeah.
This was unbelievably good.
And I think it comes back to the writing of this. This character and every character in this series was written so well that you're allowed to do that. I mean, that they can give these people the momentum that they need to carry a story forward.
I'm a little like I sort of thought we were going to see a bit more of the conversion to night nurse, but we didn't see that.
I think that's going to be coming in like other shows, like Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders.
Okay, fair enough.
She doesn't like Matt right now. She's a little pissed off at Matt right now.
Well, fair enough. I thought that everything else they did, especially the story arc there with Karen Page, was very good. And I don't have any. There wasn't a single thing that I thought I wish I would have seen other than again, Night Nurse. I thought that would have been in there.
So let's go into something that we're vaguely talking about, but I'd rather just hit it head on, and that's the character
I have one last thing to say about the Punisher.
Go ahead.
And then we can move on to whatever you were going to segue to, CJ.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite scene with the Punisher, and obviously that rooftop, like the entire episode of season 3, which was torn right out of a comic book, the whole him taping a gun to Daredevil's hand, all of that.
Did you squee?
I did squee. I squeed. Luckily, no one was around to hear it. Anyway.
Except for some cats.
Yeah, some cats.
Not many cats, though, CJ.
Why not?
Because the ratio of cats to males is very low.
Oh, so at his house, the cat-to-male ratio is so low.
Very low.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Brian. You were saying.
Moving on. There's that scene in the diner where Karen like ditches her detail and goes.
Oh, the coffee scene.
Oh my gosh, where they're
what a great scene.
Where she's like, "Oh well, you know, Matt's hurt me before," and he's like, "That's like the people who can hurt you are the ones who you let in. Like you obviously love this guy. Like and I can't do it justice, but that scene was amazing."
If I'm not mistaken, I didn't get the vibe, but he didn't know until the rooftop when he was picking guys off.
Yeah, I didn't get that vibe either.
He didn't know till then.
I feel like Daredevil he really figured it out at the end of that season. Where
he had no mask. You
want to talk about squeeing? Oh my god! When first of all, you want to talk about fight scenes? My favorite fight scene is that last fight scene because you have Daredevil and Elektra kicking the hand's ass, and it was awesome. And then all of a sudden, you just hear these sniper bullets come off, and Punisher's on a rooftop like 3 roofs away, and I flipped the F out, like full on screaming, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Life cannot get any better than this. Squeeing. It was insane.
So this is feeding into an overall theme that this season did really well, and a lot of other shows and even movies need to take notice of, and that was the way in which they did character development. Introducing a lot of new people, right? Introducing some new roles for a couple of characters. This show handled it magnificently. Everything about this was flawlessly executed, in my opinion.
No, I do have one, and I completely, I don't know why I didn't think of this till Brian was talking about Elektra. I wasn't crazy about Elektra.
See, I liked her.
I did too.
Her a lot.
No, I mean, she was good, but like, and I hate to make this comparison, but it felt a lot like it was a ripoff a bit of Arrow characters. Nyssa Al Ghul, Black Canary, White Canary.
In what way?
The whole, a lot of the character, like her idiosyncrasies and her stubbornness. I know that Elektra Nachos was that, but there was just a lot of, it seemed like gratuitous attitude, really I thought it was poorly acted. I wasn't crazy about her.
I liked her. I think she hugged that line between crazy and flirty really well.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, I not so much just her, but her relationship with Matt and the way they played off of each other, I loved. Because you got that feeling that, yeah, these two absolutely have this connection, and they obviously at one time loved each other, if they still do love each other, but they cannot be together. They're not good for each other.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the fact that we didn't have to know her entire backstory and Matt's backstory to know that they had something very different that Matt doesn't have with other people.
And that all comes down to the acting, really.
Well, acting and the writing, for both of those.
I'm giving it a second watch, and I'm hoping that the character will grow on me a little bit because it didn't have my undivided attention. I had like 2 fantasy football things going on at the same time I was trying to watch.
Yeah, because I mean
Daredevil.
that role is a lot of subtle stuff that if you miss something, you miss these little moments where
I got the flirty / crazy stuff, but I just wasn't.
There's more to it. It's like when she's all banged up in his apartment, and she's like, "I want to be good, and I don't want to kill again." And then there's that young, ninja.
Well, see, that's the stuff that drew the parallels for me to the Arrow characters. Is that she just didn't, for me, pull off that flawed thing, it's the same.
I don't think she's supposed to. She's never going to be able to be good. It's not like the whole Black Canary Sarah Lance parallel you're drawing, where Sarah, even though she grew up in this kind of world, she always had that like person she was before to go back
pieces,
to.
Right? Pieces of that, pieces of what Black Canary is the other one, not
right. Well,
Sarah.
I mean, but Sarah started out in season 2 as Black Canary,
right?
And they had that very similar storyline going on. I think
right. So you've got the resurrection thing, and you've got all that other stuff in there, and I just wasn't bowled over. I wasn't enamored with the character like I was with Karen Page.
See, to me, Karen was the character that I didn't.
Oh,
are you
man,
kidding me?
she's amazing.
She did a great job,
and her story was
she's
great.
Like, and she's a million times better here than she was on True Blood.
Well, I was going to say the last season.
Well,
I know, I get you.
I mean, if we're going to talk about Karen real quick, I mean, she's not only hiding so much stuff in her past that they still
She murdered a guy.
Yeah. She's got this thing on top of it that she murdered someone in season 1 to hide all the horrible shit in her past. That they still haven't gotten into.
Her ability to play flawed and emotionally scarred is a million times better than Elektra's.
And again, the parallel to the Punisher storyline is that she's the one who sympathizes with him the most because she's been there. She's been in a role where she would do anything to rectify some sort of past mistake.
Karen.
Yes.
Which is okay. I think the issue, maybe a bigger issue I have with Elektra is that you know that what she wants is to draw Matt in, but she always seems to screw him over, but not unintentionally. Like she wants to draw him in, she does it on purpose, and there's no. I don't know. There should be some nuance. I feel like the character should have more finesse, and she doesn't. So,
well, that's her flaw. That's her problem. She should have a duality. She should have more to her, and she doesn't. I mean, that's
no. She's an assassin, dude. She absolutely should have that subtlety, that nuance, that you don't know what she's doing, and it's not a flaw. She is the way she is, but a sociopath or a psychopath can always mask that shit. I think she seems incapable.
I think the problem, your root problem with that is most of the time that you're seeing her is she's with Matt, and she can't hide that side of herself from Matt.
And she doesn't want to. She wants to be. She doesn't want to. Right.
But like when she's in that boardroom trying to hack their system and all, she's very finesse. Right. She's very nuanced. But when she's around Matt, all the walls are down.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I've only seen a little bit of that, and I thought that scene was very good, where she was in that with the hand
even
there.
Even the scene where they go to the party to try and find that book. She's very.
But I wasn't crazy about that scene.
Oh, really? I loved it. It was very James Bond.
Very James Bond. Although I did see it coming a mile away. I was like, he's going to spill. He's wearing a white suit, a white tie,
and he's blind.
Wine is going to be spilled on this guy. Go to the bathroom, beat him up, get the card key. Anyone else see this coming? Cool. Can we just skip ahead?
I went more Mission Impossible than
whatever CIA super secret agent you want to aspire to, whether it be Ethan Hunt or Bond. That scene was very.
I only know the Russian one, so I was kind of lost for those two references. But thank you. Now I have your American ways. I appreciate it.
No. Wow. Okay.
So here's another thing that I really loved about this season, and several times I felt this way. The episodes were so high in scale and the risks were so crazy that when I was watching episode 4, I was like, you could end it right here. This feels like a season finale, and I would be happy with that. I would be okay with, okay, I've got a lot of shit that you just gave me. When's the next season coming out?
So in episode 4, when Van Gogh shows up, you were like, I'm good. That main Irish mobster was Van Gogh and Dr.
Vincent.
Who.
I think that's why I was confused.
Okay. I'm sorry, Van Gogh.
No, I mean, that was amazing. There was a couple, I can't remember the other episodes, but I distinctly remember season 4. Episode 4. Brian said season 3 earlier, so I figured I'd just save him from
Episode 4.
Episode 4.
Oh, it's okay. I have it in recorded files. So it's all right.
Really
it's
didn't.
I don't believe you.
So here's and that's the thing. A couple times where I really was like, this feels like a finale, and I don't know what episode I'm on because this show is cut to binge watch. It's in the middle of a sentence or right before a fight, and then the credits roll, and you're like, fuck this, where's the next button? How can I skip the 16 seconds Netflix wants to give me to go do something to watch the next thing? What did you guys think of the overall pace of the show?
I wasn't done talking about the character development.
Well, then go ahead, talk more about character developments, and then we'll come back to the pace.
I'm just no.
It's fine. Go ahead.
No. You talk, and then we'll go to pace.
That's fine. We got time. Listener will be happy to hear more about character development.
I just want. Because we spent a lot of time talking about the new characters and a little bit about Karen. Just the character development of Matt and Foggy and their relationship, how it's completely spiraled because of his other life, is amazing. Like, they made Foggy such a badass. Like, not in the I'm going to physically beat you up kind of way, but he can stand in the courtroom or in front of a DA, and he's got huge balls, and he's finally learning to be someone without Matt. And I loved his character arc. I really did. A character who in the comic book is really just kind of almost a throwaway character. He's just kind of there. He's so engaging and gripping, and I loved it. I love everything about it. But now we can move on to pace.
No. I don't want to.
You bring up a good point with Foggy. So their relationship. You're just watching Matt break promise after promise, and the courtroom scene where Foggy has to give the opening statement is that moment where you're looking at Foggy and expecting last season's Foggy to just crash and burn. You're like, this is the end. Oh my God. Matt's going to walk in any second now and save the day. That's what you think is going to happen. And he's fumbling with the note cards and then just says basically like, fuck it. Frank's a good man. No, he's not. And seeing that moment, you want to talk about character development right there, Brian. You're absolutely right. He gets lifted and elevated to a new character at that point.
And not only that, but like when you look at the stuff that Eldon Henson's done in his
Mighty Ducks
acting, right? Well, and that comes to mind obviously, but he did like if I'm not mistaken, he did the Crime Show tour. He did the Law and Order. I'm going to be a 1-episode criminal guy. He was in She's All That. He's always done these little tiny roles, and the guy's got some chops. Like he absolutely can act, and it's not like, Foggy Nelson is a character you really aspire to, but he's taken it to another level, Brian. Like you said, in the comic book, he is a throwaway. You need him to humanize Matt Murdock. You need him for an emotional connection.
For the day job.
And not just I don't
in the comics,
like the day job, but like when you think about a vigilante superhero like Daredevil or like Batman, on some level they're a psychopath, right? So you need a connection to reality, and Foggy Nelson is that, but his he's no longer like a Jiminy Cricket, which is what he really was in the first season, right? He was very much trying to be Matt's conscience and Matt's, connection to the real world. And I thought two things were really telling. Number one, Matt severing that connection and saying, look, I need to be this. He did it in episode 1. Like, Foggy wanted, you need to come out. You need to be my wingman, Nelson and Murdoch on the dance floor. And Matt was like, look, dude, I take a night off and people get hurt. So that's not going to happen. So it was starting from the very beginning. They wrote it very well. It was acted incredibly well. And then when Foggy comes into his own, like you were talking about in the courtroom, I was blown away by the scene. I thought I could watch more of that character. And it wasn't just that scene. The scene where he went to the Dogs of Hell, when he went to the biker hangout. I thought, man, this guy is not only passionate, but he just clings to his convictions, man. And I somebody you can admire, and not in a there's no pity anymore. Like season 1, you pitied Foggy a little bit, and I don't think there's any more pity. I think the way they wrote it, you really admire him. You need that connection, and I can see him hopefully being a bigger piece of the Daredevil role going forward. There's no reason to just keep him an ancillary part.
So how did you guys feel about the fall of Nelson and Murdoch, the actual law firm itself, and watching that kind of crumble?
I mean, it speaks to just the crumbling of their relationship. That's like the physical manifestation that their friendship is pretty much over.
But it's all three of them too.
Yeah,
right?
it's not
all
just three of them. And
right, yeah.
That's the really cool thing and the great part about this season is that you're seeing how his life as Daredevil is affecting and has completely destroyed his personal life that he's trying to maintain, that humanity that he's trying to hold on to. And that's what this season was really all about. He's faced with Punisher, who is a man with no humanity. He doesn't have any more morals, and he's not afraid to push that line. And Daredevil is faced with, and Elektra's the same way. She has no problem killing a person if she has to. If she thinks she's thinking of the bigger picture. And Matt has got this morality complex about him that he has to deal with this entire season. That maybe just this once, I can kill this person and it would serve the greater good. But after you do that, you can't ever go back. And it completely destroys his entire life. It was great.
So let's address that theme too, and then we can move on to the pacing part, because the thing that Matt faced, you're right, and again, his arc and his development for this is there ever
smart?
Look at you. Is there ever a time where the killing is fine? Because even when he mentioned that he was going to kill somebody, even the thought of doing it, right? He made the sign of the cross. He instantly had a struggle with doing it. And at the very end of the season, where he's on the rooftop with everybody and he throws Naboo off the roof, do you think that he thinks he killed him? Even at the end of it, even though Stick is the one who finally did the action, do you think that he's like, that is one thing that I think crossed the line
I think
on.
it's something they might have to reference or will reference in season 3, that he pushed the line, and now how does he redeem his soul after that?
Well, right now, do you think?
I think he thinks he killed him. Yes.
There's CJ. There's a time for every purpose under heaven. No, seriously. There's the story arc couldn't. The pace was breakneck, and it was that way while giving you so many different glimpses into each character that you completely comprehended it, and also everything was moving so quickly. You sort of like, there were a few times I went, wait, what? And I rewound and I watched again, and because I missed something, right? But there was to your point. If you don't watch this without distraction, you will miss subtleties. Yeah, and a lot of people have been saying it's a roller coaster, and they mean the fact that there's ups and downs. It's not a roller coaster. This thing was like on from. I mean
an actual roller coaster. Which if you look at the science of a roller coaster, they have to give you a space to stop, because you could have a heart attack, because you're consistently moving so quickly and your adrenaline's pumping. So they literally put stops, small ones, albeit, to let you breathe and not have a heart attack. And that's what this show did, which was go fucking fast, as hard as you can. Let's hit the ground running. Take a moment so you don't die, and then just go right back into it. And that's what this series did. This season just would not stop, and I loved it. I thought the pace of it was right on, and it is more... See, this lends itself more to the 13-hour movie than other... iterations of Netflix originals has ever done.
Best show on Netflix by a mile now. By a mile.
Absolutely.
It's not even close. And there's, I said to Brian,
I told you not to tell him we were talking about it,
because we don't obey your gag order, CJ. because we're capable of speaking privately and then also speaking in this forum without you shouting at us. So I said to Brian, I can't believe I have to wait a fucking year now.
Yeah.
Like I ruined it. Like I watched it all.
I watched it too quick.
Right. It's over. Now it's over. And I can't. It's like Christmas Day, right? When you're a kid and you've torn through all your presents and you didn't take the time to savor each little one. That's how I feel now. And I'm immediately watching it again because I just can't. I can't wait another year to see this again. It was such a ride the whole time. And if you haven't watched it yet, I don't know why you're listening and not watching. And B, you need to immediately.
And this show was so good about being so kind of breakneck fast. And like you understood what was going on for 95% of it. And any question that you had was answered. If not in that episode, it was answered immediately after. But they also did so many things and like things behind the scenes and subtleties to set up other things. Like,
I was just about to say, yeah, there's a couple crossover things and mentions that have really tipped the hat to what else is going to be this Netflix Marvel universe.
And the big thing is obviously, will Punisher get his own show? I don't know. Don't ask me anymore, please. I have no idea. But
he has to.
He has to. He really needs to.
If Luke Cage can get his own show,
then Punisher should get his own show. But
has to.
Even just like little drops and things of what's going to happen in the future of Daredevil. Not even just the future of the Defenders, because there was mention of Jessica Jones, that she was being under investigation. She was under investigation for what happened with Kilgrave.
Right.
Foggy Nelson starts working for Jenny Hogarth, which is
when I saw that scene and I just saw the back of her head, I was like, I squeed. I did squee right there.
A fantastic way to kind of tie this into what's coming. But even I think even as great as those couple episodes that Kingpin shows up in, it's more of a setup for season 3 and or 4 than anything else. That scene, and I said this to Josh in our private discussion that CJ shouldn't know about, that scene between Matt and Kingpin is probably one of my favorite scenes. And it's a 3-minute scene where he walks into the interrogation room and he knows that Fisk let the Punisher out. He knows that, and he doesn't have any proof. He's just trying to rattle him. And he starts talking about, oh, Vanessa, your wife, she's overseas, right? I could make her never come back. It would just cost $6 in postage and an envelope. And she will never...
And he got slammed off of the interrogation table.
She will never come back in the country. And just this thing that Matt thinks he's got the upper hand on Fisk, and then Fisk just unleashes. And you're like, no, Matt, you do not have the upper hand right now.
And the second he walks into that meeting, even before he actually sets foot in the room, he has the contract in Braille. And the lawyer's like, I was told to accommodate for your needs. Like, immediately we start off with Wilson Fisk having the upper hand. Matt thinks he has it for a second, and then you're instantly reminded, shut the fuck up, you are in my kingdom right now.
You will not refer to him by any other name than Mr. Fisk.
And more importantly, then after that scene, you see him, he's starting to dig more into Matt and Matt's life, which is absolutely setting him up to find out that Daredevil and Matt Murdock are the same person, and he's going to not attack Daredevil, but he's going to attack Matt and ruin everything that he loves, which is the best part about that character.
You look at John Bernthal, and so he was in The Walking Dead in for 3 seasons, 2010 and 2012. Prior to that, right, he had only been, he did the crime show rounds. He was in Numbers and all the CSIs and a couple Law and Orders and stuff like that. But post Walking Dead, he had a couple roles. Did you guys see Fury?
Yeah, great movie.
Yes.
He was amazing in Fury.
Yes,
he was
amazing.
Really great in Fury. He was really good. He was very, very, very short role in Sicario that he did well. But he's got a few things coming up where he's the lead, and this guy's a serious actor, and there's no reason we shouldn't see a Punisher show, which that gives me like when you start like the crossover with Jessica Jones, that should be cool, and we should see some back and forth there. There'll be a Luke Cage show and then a Punisher show.
Iron Fist, you're almost missing.
Iron Fist too. You forget Iron Fist.
Okay, and Iron Fist. How big? Really, Brian? How big can this get?
I mean, honestly, let's. The Marvel universe is huge, and the amount of characters
let's confine it. Let's confine it to the right now. I mean, really, they haven't.
I mean, right now you're thinking about at the very least 5 shows, but what I'm thinking about is there's so many of those, for lack of a better term, B-list characters that do not work in a 2.5-hour movie that would absolutely lend to the Netflix model, like Ghost Rider,
starring Aaron Paul,
because I know Aaron Paul is starring Aaron Paul. That they could keep this going, and they could make a huge universe just out of these kind of B-list, street level characters that really don't belong in an Avengers type movie. I mean, I think this could go on for a long time. I really hope it does.
Marvel, Disney, there's a branch of that, obviously, that's Netflix, that's Marvel, but there's crossovers for the Punisher. I mean, there's Deadpool, Spider-Man.
Punisher's one of those characters where he fits in.
He's everywhere.
With everybody.
There's X-Men crossovers. There's all kinds of crazy crossovers. And I wonder, because it's Marvel, and I understand that the cinematic universe is a Disney thing, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all owned by Disney, but
right, but like they're very compartmentalized, aren't they?
Yes. For now.
So is there any possibility that we start to see a unification of these universes? And does it make sense?
Okay, so to me, it makes sense because there's that capability to have that crossover between like Iron Man and Daredevil, and Spider-Man and Daredevil in the comic book universe are actually really close friends. So like, I mean, there's that potential, and I really, really, really want to see that. The true believer in me really says yes, they should absolutely do it. The realist in me says no.
Well, Brooklyn and Hell's Kitchen aren't that far apart.
Yeah, but look at all the work that had to happen to have Spider-Man even just appear in Daredevil. I mean, in Captain America.
In Civil War. I mean, for even barring all of that, with the change in the kind of producer regime that they had right before Civil War coming out, it's pretty unlikely at this moment in time that we're going to see that.
So it's a nerd pipe dream.
It is.
I think it's one of those things where, just like we're seeing right now on the Netflix side, we'll see it on the Marvel side, which is on the Netflix side, they keep saying the Green Man or the guy with the flag. You know, they kind of mention these characters without saying their names. I think we're going to get the same thing for, you know, the cinematic universe. It's going to be the devil in Hell's Kitchen or just something like that, and that's probably going to be all. I mean, Josh, according to you and your theory too, some of these people can't carry weight when it comes to a movie.
It's not only a theory. They can't. I mean, there was a article about how, you know, the reasons Grant Gustin wasn't cast as the Flash.
Can we not talk about that?
Well, we can, except you know.
Can we save that for next week, because that's going to go right into all of my Batman v Superman thoughts?
Oh, that's true. Yes, let's save that for our Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice talk.
Meh.
Embargoed by
I actually embargoed because Josh, I really want to talk about this, but it is going to fuel into. I just saw Batman v Superman last night, and this is why
we'll talk about it next week. I'm not calling it an embargo because not everyone is a communist like CJ. But I will respect your wishes because you are always very tempered and logical.
Oh, well, thank you.
As opposed to CJ, who is very Soviet Russia.
So, Brian, let me ask you this question, and Josh, I know you can answer these as well. I am not the comic book. You can, because you have the knowledge that I don't have. I am not a comic book reader. What did I miss by not knowing some of these tips of the hats and the things that were kind of laid down? What were the little things that I missed?
The things you missed were Easter eggs, man. Yeah. I mean, that's it.
I mean, and they put and Marvel is so good at putting those Easter eggs in for the people like me. It doesn't necessarily
true believers. Yeah, true believers get the Easter egg,
and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to turn into anything. It's just a cool thing. It
absolutely doesn't affect your watching experience or enjoyment. So you know,
like, did they do setup for Iron Fist? Was there anything
No.
in there that was Iron Fist?
I think if you see anything for setup for Iron Fist, it's going to be in Luke Cage because of the relationship between
the relationship
proximity
there.
between
together.
them.
Right, yeah.
But really, I mean, any setup that I refer to is plainly stated in, like, not plainly, but it is hidden in the series. And if you watch it, CJ, you don't need to know anything about the comic book to get, oh, this is kind of where they're going.
And if you're a person who has watched it, I completely forgot to plug, Brian. You wrote the article.
I did.
For Daredevil season 2.
I wrote things.
On thatkindofnerd.com, so you can also check that out as well for things that maybe we haven't discussed in the podcast, or if you want to get more into Brian's opinion about the show.
You can comment on that freaking article. I'll answer it.
Let's talk. Go ahead, Josh.
Before you get, I do have a crossover question because it was a big thing in the comic books. Luke Cage and Iron Fist at one point had a thing with Cable and Deadpool. And Deadpool is not Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like that was a pretty big storyline.
I think the word is yet, by the way.
And
Deadpool is not Marvel Universe
Fox
yet.
Fox is never...
Crossing my
Fox
fingers.
is never
goddamn
letting
right.
I know, but we're going to see... I mean, if we don't see Cable in Civil War, we should see Cable at some point because...
We're going to see him
Deadpool
in
too.
Deadpool.
Okay, so
Remember
we're going to see
the end of the trailer?
So great. So we're never basically there's never going to be
Nope.
the crossover.
Yeah.
Luke
Nope.
Cage and Iron Fist. I mean, there was an obvious sort of rivalry, or they were adversaries, Cable and Deadpool. That's something that I think should be, that's an easy Netflix thing, but we're never going to see it. So I'll just stop asking about it.
But I mean, Luke Cage and Iron Fist had a very long running series of Heroes for Hire, and that's something that's very feasible that you can see. Which is why I think the Easter eggs and whatever setup they're going to do for Iron Fist is going to happen in Luke Cage. It just makes more sense to me.
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So let's talk for just a minute, and then if there's anything that we need to talk more about with Deadpool season 2, we can. Let's
You mean
talk for a
Daredevil
second
season
about
2?
the trailer. Daredevil, sorry. Let's talk a little bit about the Luke Cage trailer.
I didn't see it.
It was
You
at
didn't
the
see it?
end after you're
you
done
were
watching it. They automatically
Yeah, after you're done watching Daredevil, it's just like, hey, by the way, trailer.
Oh, you were one of those people who stopped watching immediately after the show ended. You poor thing.
No, it ended and it just went right back to the menu.
Oh, really? I got to see the Luke Cage trailer.
Really? What did you watch it on?
On Netflix.
No, Apple TV,
Apple TV,
Xbox,
Apple TV.
Apple TV. That's weird. Mine played perfectly
Nope.
fine and played the trailer.
No trailer.
I mean, really, honestly, Josh, you didn't miss a whole lot. You missed...
I'm sure I didn't miss much.
It's really just. I mean, he walked into a gym. People shot him. He goes, "I'm tired of."
He
buying
throws
new
somebody
clothes," and
through
that was about
the window, and that's it. I mean, listen, Luke Cage as a character has never been one of my...
No, he's
huge-
not a great character.
Yeah, he's never been like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing character. But I will say this, if anybody can make him interesting and make him a viable character, it's Netflix.
Well, yes, I still have. Without some serious crossover power, I'm worried about that show.
I'm thinking honestly, it's a one season, maybe two. I think one season solo with very little very little crossover. Then season 2 is pretty much crossing over as much as you
Like a
fucking
Luke
can.
Cage and Iron Fist show.
Right.
Yeah, basically like a buddy cop show.
Which I'd be okay with. I'm completely...
Yep.
completely
Right. They
fine
do
with
one season of. I mean, does Iron Fist get his own
Yeah.
show?
that. Yeah, they
Then
cast-
they do one for each for backstory and setup, and then they do another series. Then it's another series combined.
I'm gonna tell you, because they just cast Danny Rand, who is Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Yes. Know him
You
from
know
Game
him
of
from Game of
Thrones.
Thrones. And what his...
And that's it. It's like
Yeah, but what is his name?
Finn Jones.
Yes.
He's the Knight of Flowers,
Yes,
right?
yes. He's the guy who likes the guy with the horns. I don't remember.
Jesus.
It's Game of Thrones. There's so many, like, every name sounds the same.
He
Guy
plays
with the
Loras
horns.
Tyrell.
Loras Tyrell,
Jesus.
yes.
God.
They all sound the same.
How can
They
you
don't
keep
sound
all these
anything
comic book
like the
characters
same.
straight in your head, but you can't figure out Game of Thrones
Because
characters?
characters in comic books are
Listen,
named
we are
Peter
30 days
and
away
Matt.
right now from Game of Thrones. 30 days from Game of Thrones.
We are. And I'm interested to see where Game of Thrones shows up. But we're talking about Daredevil, Josh. And
We are.
Daredevil, by far, is my favorite television show on any platform right now, including television and HBO.
I absolutely. I say it's better than some movies that are coming out right now. So I'm very pumped. So listen, it comes down to this. Final thoughts for Daredevil. I'm trying to think. If someone hasn't watched it by now, well, you're fucked. I mean, everything about this was.
You absolutely have. You can't come in on season 2. You have to watch season 1. And at this point, I know quite a few people who haven't watched Daredevil season 1. You need to watch it, and you need to immediately watch season 2. This is a lot of shows, escalate season 2. They ramp up, right? Like a solid mixtape. You take it up a notch, right? And this show, man, it ratcheted quite a few notches up. So Daredevil season 3, it's got a lot to live up to, and I kind of feel like it's going to mellow out a little bit because it kind of needs to. But I couldn't have been more happy with how this went. Given my dislike for the Elektra character and the way that was written and acted, everything else was as close to perfect as you could ever want it to be.
Brian, how excited were you when they unveiled his weapon?
Oh my gosh, that's another time I squeed.
I was just about to say, that's something I wanted to bring up because that was
progression, just of stupid things for me. Like for me, the progression of just the costumes, even like when Elektra got her legit costume, and so I flipped out when Melvin gives him the baton because that's a huge staple in the character. Every like.
Well, it was incomplete, right? He was
and
incomplete
he's been doing half of the work of throwing things at people.
But that's when you think about Daredevil, that baton, especially in its ability to, launch great distances and come back, like that's what you see in the comic books.
Yes.
He's never without that. So, and the fact that he got it so late in this season was sort of reminiscent of he really wasn't Daredevil until he got his
costume
suit of armor in the first season.
When are they going to officially everywhere start calling him Daredevil and not the Devil of Hell's Kitchen? Like, am I the only one who's bothered by that?
Because it makes sense. Like nobody. Okay, as much as I love those Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, there's no J. Jonah Jameson being like, "We'll call him Spider-Man," and just moving on with life, and everybody accepts it. Like, that's not how it works.
Right. I mean, right now, if there's a nickname for someone who's, a killer or something like that, that shit catches on pretty goddamn quick.
Well, the Punisher's name caught on really quick.
In the real world. Right. So if the Punisher can catch on really quick, why can't Daredevil? I'm just saying.
Anyway, moving
just saying
past CJ's stupidity. When he got that baton, I got extremely excited. When Elektra decides to take those guys' size that
the
the guy was trying to kill him, and she's like, "I'm going to keep these. These are my weapons now."
That's her signature weapon. Right.
That's her signature weapon, and I mean, just that scene of Frank taking the bulletproof vest and spray painting that skull.
Oh, that was so great!
As soon as I saw the vest, and we'll talk.
The vest already has an outline of a skull kind of. I
know.
And he just
soon as I saw it, I was freaking out.
I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, I really hope they make it white." And he goes in that shed and just spray paints it white. And the next time you see him is on that building top.
But you didn't see what he was doing. So you saw him with the spray can, and then you didn't see anything. And then he shows up on the roof, and you see him from afar with the
my God,
so good. I don't squee, but I go, oh, that's what I do, right?
The only thing that bothered me was that Netflix's featured artwork for Daredevil already has him in that vest, and I was like, "You son of a bitch!" So I already
I was finale. I mean, that's
the featured art had it for me.
I
know.
Listen, it's not like you didn't think he was never going to have
until
it
the finale.
Right. Yeah. So hold on, real quick. This does remind me. I do want to have one conversation about one character that I kind of thought went under the radar, or one actor, I should say, and that was Clancy Brown's performance. If you don't remember him, he was from Shawshank Redemption.
He's also the voice of Lex Luthor in the Superman cartoon.
Yes, he was also in Star Space Troopers.
And he's also on a couple episodes of Flash.
He's on pretty much everything.
He's in a lot of stuff, and he's great in all of it.
The movie you're thinking
he was in Arrow.
He
was in Arrow. I mean,
he was in Arrow.
And he was also the Kurgan. He was the Kurgan, by the way.
He's everything.
CJ, you gave me the giggle like you don't know what the Kurgan is.
I don't know.
You don't know what the Kurgan is? MK Ultra. Brian, can you illuminate?
I'm drawing a blank. I'm so sorry.
You can't.
Oh, Brian doesn't know
I'm in Daredevil
MK
mode.
Ultra.
Highlander, dude. the
Oh, yes,
Kurgan.
yes.
Oh,
He
okay.
was,
Never mind.
He was
Yes,
the
yes, yes,
Kurgan.
yes, yes.
He was, and
Sorry.
yeah, and he's the voice of Mr. Krabs. If anybody was interested,
Yes.
But whenever he shows up, it's generally a pretty good character, and
Immediately suspicious of this son of a bitch.
right. Yes, definitely
Immediately.
suspicious. But and the fact Laura would tell me that she would object because of his crossover between DC and Marvel. She would have a strong objection to this guy.
That
Why?
sounds like a CJ reason.
Because she doesn't, she thinks once you're a character, that's your character.
Laura, you can cross the streams. It's okay.
You can't. You
Yeah,
shouldn't.
even I'm saying as a
unless
continuity person, that doesn't bother
There
me.
is-
And I was probably with Chris Evans being two Marvel characters.
there is no Dana, there is only Zool. And unless you need to take out Zool, you probably shouldn't cross the streams.
I
But the Colonel Ray Schoonover, that's a good character.
It was great, and the twist of the whole blacksmith thing. I knew he was suspect, but I didn't think he was the blacksmith. Had it coming, and I was very happy to see his death.
Well, yeah, that's what's so great about the character that he played, though. Like, he's only in a couple episodes, and you immediately are just like, I'm so glad that guy's dead. Can you kill him? Can you bring him back and kill him again? Because he needs to die even more. Like, it was very well done.
Right. So, listen. Overall, I don't know if you guys can tell. We really don't have very negative things to say about Daredevil season 2 or Daredevil at all.
You know, okay, I have one negative thing to say.
It's over, and we have
It's
to wait a
over.
year.
We have to wait a year
Yeah, have
for
to wait a
it to
year.
come out again.
I feel about this the way I felt about the year between The Sopranos, Sons of Anarchy, and those are some of my favorite shows ever. So having to wait is it's ridiculous.
For me, it was the gap in between Breaking Bad, the final season. This is what this reminds me of. So again, please, for the love of God, do yourself a favor to your friends, because you have obviously watched Daredevil if you've listened to this much of the podcast. Spread the word. Have your other friends and family members watch this. Maybe not with you together, because some family members get a little squeamish about violence, and this show is fucking violent.
Brutal as hell.
Brutally violent, but you know what? In a way that I was okay with. Even the shotgun to the face, which I thought was
The
crazy.
show is amazing.
It was phenomenal. I do want to move on to just a couple other things real quick. One of them is a little housekeeping / update.
Oh, wait, hang on.
to,
Before you get into housekeeping, speaking of brutality, I want to go back to one more amazing scene with the Punisher, is where he's in that pawn shop and he gets all this, the CB radio and everything, and he's going to let the guy live. He walks out and the guy says just that one thing, hey, I got more stuff for you. He starts bringing up child porn and you just see him lock the door and you're like, oh, this guy's screwed.
I was like, if you don't kill him right now, I'm turning.
It's
off the
you know
show.
what actually, and now that I think back to it, the things about this show that take the brutality up a notch. He hit the guy with the bat. There were the sound effect, like the audible squish of it, like this, and like when Matt takes the cartel guy off the hook, like just the gurgling of the
the
blood.
theater soundy stuff. You really like that?
No,
You really like the
CJ,
fact
not
that they made the sound
not the
effects so
theater
good?
soundy stuff. I have no idea how they make the sound. I know that when they do thunder, they have like a tin panel. and
They took
wiggle
ground
it, but-
beef and threw it on the floor. That's how they make that sound.
Look, they did an amazing job combining visual and audible stuff that makes you that inspires a reaction from you.
What's funny too is that Daredevil has a assisted hearing section and under like their subtitles and stuff like that, which will actually kind of like
It's like squish. Does it say squish?
well, no, like describe a little bit for people who are visually impaired. Ironically enough, for this show, kind of the scene that's going on. So I would assume that they would give the same thing to the audio work.
I'm just saying. I mean, in that vein, the people behind this entire series and just the stuff in
They've got it
they're
right.
so smart. If that were me, I'd be like, all right, John, it's your turn to get on the hook, and let's get the mic right up in there, okay? And now we'll remove you because
But they're not really on the hook, Brian.
It
They're not
sounded like it,
humans.
CJ. My point is, I have no imagination.
It was the sound absolutely added to the brutality.
Absolutely. Okay, CJ, you can absolutely move on. I probably will want to talk more about this anyway, but move on.
Yeah, me and Brian have to text about Batman versus Superman. So,
So a quick thing of house cleaning I wanted to bring up, and that house cleaning.
are you gonna give tips? Or
I think he's mixing up the fact that it's spring cleaning season and housekeeping. The term is housekeeping.
Yeah, okay.
Housekeeping!
That's what's happening. That's what's
You
happening in
want
my
me to
terrible
pillow?
brain. God damn it.
what kind of hotel
I really want to
is
say
this?
I wanted to say thank you to a lot of fans who have actually filled out an N64 Madness bracket to start to get this conversation about the N64 game. I will agree with you, Josh, that this bracket is terribly
seeded. Are we gonna give it another week and let some more, because the tournament's still happening? So I think we should give it some more time and let folks fill out some more brackets. I know that my boy Nick, Philly Surf Boy on Twitter, he got at us quite a bit about this thing. So I do know that there are people out there that want to keep filling out the brackets. I think we need to give them some more time. But folks, we want to give you some results. I don't know that we can come up with a consensus winner because it was so poorly seeded that
Well, so far there's a trend, but we'll get to that once we have more. Right. I do want to say that there's a couple things you can do. First off, go to thatkindofnerd.com, go download the bracket. We do have a downloadable version for you.
Is it the PDF or do we have the Excel?
By the time we publish, we will have an Excel file. Right now it's PDF, but there will be an Excel file for you to
If you are an Apple user, if you have a MacBook or an iMac or any sort of Apple product, you can easily just mark up the PDF. If you have Windows, you're screwed.
So I did want to read a few comments because there was a small conversation through my friend Dave's Facebook profile that kind of got some other people to fill this out. And he had probably the coolest things to say about this, but he said both Banjos, DK, and GoldenEye all being in the same area was just way too tough. Some people are really clamoring that Banjo-Kazooie is probably the best one on the whole list. But the quote that I loved was, "I don't know, but I'm trying to decide between Donkey Kong 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. It's one of the hardest choices I've had to make in a long time." And I hear you. Making some of these choices was damn tough. But here's what we're doing. We're taking your brackets that you guys have. Please send them to podcast@thatkindofnerd.com. You can also put them on Twitter @thatkindofnerd. What we're also doing is we're sharing them on our new Instagram, which is We Are That Kind of Nerd. So go ahead and check that out. We're publishing the brackets themselves, linked to some articles, so that way you can kind of get your visual fill of That Kind of Nerd. So please go check out We Are That Kind of Nerd on Instagram, because That Kind of Nerd is taken. And if you know the guy who has it, you talk to him now and you get it to us. Get it to us. So I do want to say thank you again to Ed and to Brian, Real Brian, for making this bracket for us.
Real Brian? No.
The email said Real Brian, so I have to call him
I'm looking at Real Brian. He's right here on my Google Hangout. I'm looking at him. He's a handsome devil.
I really am.
Who lives in a palatial estate with very few cats. The cat to male ratio is very low.
And that's an amazing Bane impersonation. CJ.
Damn it.
Oh, yes. CJ. The N64 bracket. Please send them to the emails and the Twitters. I'm going to do an entire episode like
one
that.
episode. I thought I could go one episode without the Bane.
We love Bane so much. So look, before we wrap, there's one more thing that I want to discuss, and that is that CJ spent quite a bit of time researching and writing a cord cutting article, a primer for cord cutting, a guide to cord cutting, whatever you want to call it. That actually, I read the rough draft, and it inspired me to begin the process of cutting the cord. I want to come back to this maybe in a week or two, but folks, in the meantime, check out CJ's guide to cord cutting. We'll be sharing it on all social media outlets. And obviously, it's at thatkindofnerd.com. You can save yourself a metric fuck ton of money.
I was so surprised the amount of money that I'm actually, because I did it. I cut the cord. I did this for about a month before I wrote it, just to see if it was something that you could live by. The amount of money I'm going to be saving annually is fucking unreal.
It is absolutely worth it. I went out and I bought a new Apple TV and I started doing all the stuff. And look, we're going to talk about it more in depth, but for now, read it. And please send us your questions, concerns. There's going to be some objections out there from folks who think this equipment is better than that equipment. We want to hear that stuff so that we can continually revise and update. I think this is one of those topics that we can continually update over the course, especially of the next 12 months as streaming becomes more of a mainstream, to use the word streaming.
And I'll tell you right off the bat, I know a lot of people already know that we're very pro Apple on the podcast, on the website, but I've got something in there specifically for you Android users to get the most out of the equipment too. So
yeah, and the truth is that a lot of times you really don't need much more than a smart TV if you don't want to go either Apple or Android or other devices. So, but read it, and then we're going to talk about it more in depth. But CJ, you're the moderator. You're not often going to, toot your own horn. I want to tell you that I thought it was very well researched and well written. And thank you very much, because you've already saved me to the tune of $60 a month. So thank you. And I've only partially cut the cord.
Right, cut the cord. Yep. I mean, this is a thing you can do for partial. So thank you for that, Josh. So again, please, everybody, a couple things you got to do. Go to thatkindofnerd.com. Go check out the N64 bracket. Go check out Brian's article on Daredevil. Please go check out my article on cord cutting. I would greatly appreciate it. Comments, feedback, questions, give that stuff to us. Go ahead and we're not afraid to engage with you about a particular question, so you don't have to make it vague.
We ain't scared.
You can do that through Twitter at That Kind of Nerd, Facebook at facebook.com/That Kind of Nerd. But guys, I say this every week, and it perhaps is the coolest part about this podcast, is we want you to be on it. So call 484-373-4119. Record your message for us. We'll either play it on the podcast if you want to, or if you just want us to address it without your audio, we can do that as well. Again, 484-373-4119. Check that out. Leave us a message so we can put your voice on the podcast. Anything else that you needed to give to our fine listeners before we parted ways for today?
Only one thing very briefly, and I've talked to you guys about this probably 5 or 6 times in the last 24 hours since it happened, but I found online, as everyone knows, I'm a giant fantasy football nerd, and I found on DynastyLeagueFootball.com on the forum a startup league. I was intrigued because it was called the Civil War Dynasty Football League. It's a 14-team league created by a very creative commissioner, in which it's basically pitting. Your team is a comic book character that participated in Civil War. I will say this. I'm more excited about this league. It's not by any stretch of the imagination my most expensive league. It's not the one where I can win the most money. But I'm on the anti-registration division, and my team is Daredevil, and I cannot wait to get this started and participate, just because it integrates so many facets of my nerd life that I'm so excited about it. So it's just one of those, it has nothing to do with anything but fantasy football, but my team is Daredevil, and I think it's fantastic.
You should, and if you want to know more details about that, our personal Twitter handles are also in the show notes, so you can actually tweet at Josh, and he can help you out with getting some more information.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and as we ramp up into, we start coming up on a football season, I want the listeners to reach out to me and discuss fantasy football. The only league that will be posting any tweets from my participation in fantasy football will be the Civil War League. I'm not posting on Twitter for any other league.
So, guys, we've kept you long enough. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, for making us your walk around the neighborhood or your drive to work. Important notice, next week's episode will be Batman versus Superman. Dawn of Justice. Will I be throwing confetti into the air and eating ravioli on being right, or do I have to eat my own goddamn words on this podcast? Time will tell. Paul Castillo has some skin in this game, and I know he's very interested to hear what I'm going to have to say as well. So stay tuned for next week's episode. It's going to be great.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Oh,
I love that you guys did that without anything. That was phenomenal. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you guys next week.
Episode 4.
Episode 4.
Brian said season 3 earlier, so I figured I'd just save him from one.
I really didn't actually.
I don't believe you.
Oh, it's okay. I have it in recorded files, so it's all right. It's the standard now.
We'll find out. My favorite scene with the Punisher, and obviously that rooftop, like the entire episode of season 3, which was torn right out of a comic book.
The entire episode of season 3.
I'm freaking smart.
Embargoed by Brian, not by CJ.
I don't squee, but I go, huh. That's what I do, right?